The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. On that first day of the week, Mary Magdalene ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple whom Jesus loved and told them, "They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we do not know where they put him." So Peter and the other disciple went out and came to the tomb. They both ran, but the other disciple ran faster than Peter and arrived at the tomb first. He bent down and saw the burial cloths there, but did not go in. When Simon Peter arrived after him, he went into the tomb and saw the burial cloths there, and the cloth that had covered his head, not with the burial cloths, but rolled up in a separate place. Then the other disciple also went in, the one who had arrived at the tomb first, and he saw and believed. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
St. John, the beloved disciple, he's a unique character in the Scriptures and among all the disciples. He's pretty much a mystic, a very contemplative man who really leaned on the heart of Jesus and understood the mysteries our Lord was proclaiming in a deeper way than anyone else. When we read his stuff, you kind of have to read it with that mystical eye to some degree, because he's always speaking in hidden depths. But he seems to really be concerned with the Word made flesh, right? He's always, the prologue of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh, and so on. And we hear that in his first reading today, and he speaks of, what we have looked upon and touched with our hands concerns the word of life. Okay, but if you stop and just chew on that thing for a little bit, what's he saying? The word of life. We're kind of used to him saying that, using that kind of language, but really, what's he getting at? And I can't tell you for sure, but you might be able to say the word of life, maybe the meaning of life. Words contain meaning. If they don't contain meaning, they're just sound. Right? But a word contains a meaning. So, what we have heard, what we have seen concerns the meaning of life. So John's tapped into the meaning of life, and he's wanting to share that to everybody. So that's why he's always he's excited. Every letter he writes there's a lot of excitement in it. Right? So I don't know, what would you say the meaning of life is? Well, the Word made flesh. But you might, if you kind of just look at all his writings and stuff, you might say the meaning of life is love. John speaks of love all the time. God is love. He says that in his letters. And then he also said, they say at the end of his life, the only phrase he could repeat was, love one another. He just kept on repeating it, love one another, to the point where they were tired of hearing it, So he tapped into those greatest commandments, to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. He understood that in a real depth. But I think he understood our Lord. He just, even from the get-go, he got it to some degree. And Jesus is the Word made flesh. He's love incarnate. And he shows us how to love. He shows us ultimately how to love on the cross. He gave of himself out of love for us, out of love for the others. Love is a total gift of self. But love first has to be received. And maybe that's what John got that the others didn't. Jesus was always in communion with the Father. He was always in love with the Father. So there wasn't a moment that he was not. For you and I, there was a moment when we were not, and I guess you'd call it original sin, but through our baptism, we've received this love. Okay, now we've received it. It's a pure gift. We've taken it on. We've received it. Now we can give it. But you can't give it if you don't have it. Maybe that's what John got that the other disciples didn't. This meaning of life, this love that's first received and then can be given. John's great. He's the beloved disciple. We can learn a lot from him, but it's on a deep level, right? He's not up higher, or he's just deep. He's mystical. He's contemplative. He knows the heart of Christ. He knows the meaning of life, the Word made flesh, which is love. So may we imitate him who imitated the Lord, first receive the love of the Father, and then we're able to love as Christ has taught us to love.